everybody, and welcome to EntrepreNINES. I'm John Wist.
And I'm Bonni Mace. We are two Enneagram 9s who took the big leap into the world of entrepreneurship at a similar time. And this podcast is a space where we are inviting you to laugh and learn with us as we work to build businesses with soul. This is episode 41.
41. Second episode of the new season.
Yeah.
And new year.
Yeah.
And we're just going to jump into our little bit of a rhythm, a little bit of a new rhythm of deep dive, interview, reflection.
Yeah.
And so this is our deep dive on a type 2.
Enneagram 2's.
So this is where I get to sit and mostly listen to you tell us all the things about type 2's. So, so next episode we'll have an interview with actually...
Yeah, tell us about them.
I'm hoping two 2's. Two 2's. Who are becoming friends of mine. They own a video production company. Mm-hmm. They're from Tennessee. And yeah, when we first started talking and they knew that we had a podcast and they kind of wanted to start a podcast. They have now since started a podcast. And so they had some questions and I said, they were like, well, what's your podcast about? And I was like, well, we talk about our businesses, but kind of through the lens of the Enneagram. And they're like, oh, we just learned about the Enneagram because they had done a rebrand.
Okay.
And the person who did their rebrand actually led them through like some Enneagram stuff and discovering.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
I feel like I need to meet this person.
Yeah. And so, well, maybe we can have her on too.
Yeah.
So they were like, I was like, all right, cool. So do you know what Enneagram number you are? And they're like, yeah, we're both 2's. And when I heard that, I was like, wow,
fascinating.
That is fascinating.
And we can talk about why that's more fascinating in a minute.
Yeah. As a partnership, as business owners. So, so I mean, I've learned more about them over time, and we'll dig into it on the next episode. But let's just do a type 2 download. Let's do it. So we always start with just what's the name? What is a type 2?
Oh, a type 2. They are known as, you know what? I didn't look up the new name. I always forget this part.
That's okay.
What I have here is the supportive advisor.
Okay. I'll look up the new one.
You know what? They're also like the helper, the lover.
Yeah.
Servant is another way you might hear it because Enneagram 2's are all about focusing their attention and affection on other people and how they can help support other people. So they show up in the world really as this serving, loving, helping person. They emphasize love and they take genuine interest in other people. They want to come alongside and know how they can be most helpful. They're nurturing, patient to a point, which we'll learn why that is in a minute.
Yeah.
And they prioritize their relationships and their people around them, making sure that they're constantly helpful, serving in the world. They can be a little burdened because there's a lot of people that need help in the world.
There certainly are.
Yeah. A way they might have a hard time is by actually like slowing down and thinking about themselves because the world will never stop needing things. People will never stop needing things. They will always be able to see how they could be helping someone. So they will shelve their own needs a lot of times. That's a big thing. And they're super empathetic people as well. Yeah. But really self-forgetting. So that's a way that 9's and 2's tend to vibe is we're like, self, who is that?
Oh, hello.
Like in our own ways.
Yeah.
Of just self-neglect and self-forgetting.
Yeah.
We both vibe. 9's and 2's can also really be mistyped for each other a lot.
Okay.
And so we'll talk about like why that is too.
Yeah. Real quick, I did look it up. So type 2 nurturing supporter is the new way that it's referred to.
New name. Love it.
But I did see
cross them out.
But
I'm
I did see
looking at a binder of the video. I was going to see. I'm looking at my binder for help.
That's okay. But I did see like the helper is the other kind of main one that is out there a lot. So, okay. So that's kind of baseline, how they show up, things like that. Next part we always talk about is core motivations.
Yeah.
Can you just really quickly remind us what core motivations are?
Yeah. So they're the underlying thing that makes an Enneagram type.
Okay.
Like I'm going to talk a lot about how 2's and 9's show up in the world similarly.
Yeah.
Because behavior is not what makes your Enneagram type. Motivation is what makes your Enneagram type. So there's 4 primary core motivations that are underneath everything that you do, how you perceive the world, and how you put yourself out into the world.
Yeah. Okay.
And it is your fear, your desire, your weakness, and your longing. So for type 2, here's how this shows up. Their core fear is being rejected and unwanted or thought of as needy or worthless or insignificant, unworthy of love. They're very motivated by being loved.
Which I can see that being another place where like 2's and 9's can kind of have some intersection a little bit. Not in the sense that 9's fear that, but 9's question their value. Yeah. So the little bit of difference between our core fears is a 2 is more of like, how am I loved? Like they want to be loved. And a 9 is like, how am I a part of this? Gotcha.
So love is important because love assures us like how we're part of something. But for a 2, it's like, am I valuable?
Yeah.
Am I being loved? And 9 just, am I included? Am I part of this? Am I making a difference here? So it's like a little subtle difference.
Okay.
But I think if you're a 2 or if you're a 9, you could probably relate. Like 9 is more like, how am I part of this whole? And the 2 is more of like, how does the whole love me?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Okay.
So core desire of a 2 is to be loved, to be accepted, and wanted.
Yeah.
And then the core weakness of a 2, which 2's hate this. So guys, hang on. If you're a 2 and you're listening, just like let me get through the core weakness. We all have a hard time with our weakness, but I think 2's are especially like, how dare when I say this. How dare, like I'll say 9's a sloth and they're gonna be like, I see that. Yeah. And 2's are offended. Okay. Here it goes, 2's. Your core weakness is pride. Okay. But just like all of the core weakness of people, it's not like the stereotypical version of pride. Yeah. So it's not like a 2 is walking around like, I am the best person all the time. Yeah. Please worship me. I know all the things, blah, blah, blah. No, their pride is this sneaky, like, I am the person to solve the world's issues. Okay. So it's not about like puffing themselves up in some sort of like self-promoting, exploitive way. Yeah. It is no one can fix you like I can fix you.
It's kind of built on the empathy.
Yes.
It's almost like a layer on top of their empathy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so they love hearing that they were helpful. Yeah. They love knowing that they were helpful. Yeah. They love the accolades that come with being helpful. Though they're going to pretend like it. Like, oh, I don't need a trophy. Yeah, they don't need a trophy, but they do need all the love that comes with a trophy. Yeah. Yeah. And so interesting. Okay. Yeah, so it gets tricky in like showing up to serve someone if you let your pride take over and your weakness take over and let that drive. What that means is you cross people's boundaries because you can fix them even if they don't want you to. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's where the weakness gets dicey. Got it. Of just like, you don't understand how much you need my help. Right. Yeah. Let me fix you. I'm coming to fix you now.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And so learning to set down that pride learning is a lot about boundary work for a type 2.
Okay. Good.
Yes. If you've ever been smothered with love, you might know a type 2. That can be one of their things. Yeah. Their core longing. So your core longing is a statement that if you heard it and truly believed it and let it sink in, you would experience contentment and peace. Okay. And wholeness in a way. So their core longing is that you are wanted and loved. Okay. Full stop. Yeah. Not you are wanted and loved because you take care of the house well, or because you know exactly what I need when I need it, or because blah, blah, blah. There's no because. There's you are wanted and loved, full stop. And that is, if you never do anything for me ever again, you are still wanted and loved by me. Yeah. So that's what they hope to hear. Okay. So it's a peek behind the 2 curtain.
Okay. That's great. Okay, so I think that this is something that we've kind of included in this. I feel like that is super helpful because now that we have a little bit of a foundation, as mostly we know that we're talking to mostly 9s.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, one of I feel like our primary concerns is knowing and understanding people, how they operate, how they function, and how we can love them well. And so the next question that we always ask is, how then do we love a 2 well?
Yeah. I think open communication is a big part.
Yeah.
And showing them the appreciation that they really crave, but not just when they do something for you.
Yeah.
So loving a 2 well is noticing when they serve you and then doing your best to reciprocate. So this can be hard for a 9. This is a big differentiator between a 2 and a 9. We're both helpful people and want to serve other people. A 2 doesn't have to be invited to help.
Yeah.
As a 9, we feel like we need to be invited to
We have
help
to be
someone.
allowed into the space. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a good way to tell the difference. Okay. But a 2 doesn't want to invite you to help.
Okay.
And so that's always very tricky and has continued to be tricky in my relationship with 2.
Yeah.
Is they will help without being asked and they want to be helped without asking. And so for me to really be in a place where I feel like I should ask you. Yeah. Like I don't want to impose my help because then what if that messes you up?
Right.
You're underwaters. Yeah. No, a 2, just like you just have to show up for them.
Okay.
The same way that they show up for you.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so understanding what they need, making space. And then here's another thing. When you do show up to help a 2, they're going to say, no. And you're saying, no, I'm going to help. Yeah. And they're going to say, no, which is really hard for a 9 too, because you want to respect their no.
Right.
And they're going to say, no, I'm good. And you're going to have to be like, no, I'm here to help you. Right. Because I love you. Yeah. Not because they're needy. Right. Because that's a fear. Not because you can't do it, because that's a fear. Right. But because I love you.
Because I have the desire to help you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then also if you're very close to a 2, knowing how to pull them back and take care of themselves. Okay.
Self-care is an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Them having boundaries, them respecting other people's boundaries can be difficult. So assuring them that having your own boundaries, that saying a no is not going to disqualify you from love. Like helping a 2 to embrace their worthiness to be cared for by themselves and by other people is really important.
That's good.
So those would be the big ones.
Okay. That's great.
And it's hard for a 9. All of those things are really hard for a 9 with a 2. Other numbers can bring this a little bit more deep. Yeah. But for me, we're as similar as 9s and 2s are. We also clash because of how we approach like our help.
Yeah. So. Interesting. Okay. That's really good. Okay. So something to think about when we're having our interview too. Because I think it'll be good to flesh out a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing would be the decision-making triad. Yeah. So again, just kind of give us a quick, because it's been a while since we've done one of these. So, really long time, so give us a quick little overview of like a decision-making triad.
Yeah. So a triad is a group of 3 numbers. There are different triads, but we focus on the decision-making ones because we all lean on one of these 3 areas to make a comfortable decision. Yeah. Now a whole person is going to start acknowledging the other 2 they would prefer not to, but we all have a default. Yeah. So it's either your gut, your mind, or your heart. 2s are heart people. So this means they're very in tune with their emotions, can be emotionally led, and a decision is a good decision for them, is a confident decision for them when they have the right feeling about it. Yeah. Like a nameable, warm fuzzy. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like for a 9, we have a feeling, but it's like a gut feeling that doesn't have necessarily any emotional word like to it.
Knowing and yeah.
A 2 is going to be like, well, this feels good. Like this idea makes me happy.
Right. Or is it a question of feeling? Maybe that's a good clarification, because is it a question of feeling right necessarily, or is it like I just know because I feel
they're gonna trust their emotions that it is right.
Okay.
So instead of like a head person is going to weigh the facts to decide if it's right. A gut person is going to have the knowing that it's right. A heart person is going to have good vibes about it.
Okay. All right. Good.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So they're heart-led. This means that they also have a focus on significant identity. So this triad is 2's, 3's, and 4's.
Okay.
And they care about their identity and it being important.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so 2, 3, and 4 is going to like focus in on significant identity in different ways. So 2's significant identity is through serving.
Okay.
I matter because I help people.
Yeah.
And 3 is going to be I matter because I'm the best.
Okay.
In the room.
Yeah.
And a 4 is I matter because I am a unique creature.
Yeah.
And so they all show up in a different way. And then their emotional struggle in this triad is shame. And so that's why it's so quickly, if I can't serve, then I am worthless. Like that's that big jump is so easy for them to make.
Yeah.
That if you're not a 2, it's harder to understand. Like, well, if I can't help, it's because I can't help. But if a 2 can't help, then they're worthless.
Yeah.
Like
they've lost all value.
Yeah. And it's really hard for them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. The 3 shame is if they fail. 4 shame is if they don't live up to their own hype.
Uniqueness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
That's the decision-making triad for them.
Okay. So the next thing would be wings.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Enneagram symbol.
We put a diagram. I'm just kidding. We didn't put a diagram on the screen.
We're not showing a diagram for those just listening. But like your number has numbers on either side of it. Mm-hmm. And so those are your wings.
Those are wings.
But they can have influence basically, right? Yeah. On kind of your core number.
Yeah. All of these things that I talk about are kind of like they flavor your core motivations so that you show up a little differently from the 2 next to you. Mm-hmm. That'll be really fun about interviewing. Yeah. These 2's, they're both 2's, but I promise you they're going to be like, what? No, you don't, I've never.
I've already had like conversations with them where they show up very differently. Yeah. And they have very different ideas about how to approach the situation. Mm-hmm. And so that will be kind of interesting. So, but go ahead and fill us in on wings.
Okay. So the neighbors of a 2 are a 1 and a 3. Mm-hmm. So a type 1 is the moral perfectionist. We do have a deep dive on type 1 already. Yep. So you can go way back. Yeah. And find that one. So they're the moral perfectionist. So a 2 who leans heavier on their 1 wing is going to be a little bit more reserved and exercise. This is the right way to help. Okay. Yeah. They're probably going to be like not as outgoing. Mm-hmm. They're also going to be focused more on like, how can I make this fit the right way than like necessarily this individual person needs this. Like a 2 with a 3 wing might be more willing to bend the rules to help the person in front of them than a 2 with 1 wing. Gotcha. If that makes sense. Yeah. They might be a little bit more controlling and demanding from other people because that's a struggle of a type 1. Yeah. Just feeling like they really need to like have control of the room. Yeah. To make sure things are perfect. Yeah. This one is more happy to sort of be like a behind the scenes servant too, whereas the 2 with a 3 wing, because the 3 is this effective achiever and being the best matters and meeting what the room expects of them matters and being the person with the best hair and the best shoes and, like, or the best father or the CEO or, whatever, like that super matters. So a 2 with a 3 preference is going to pull on that significant being the best. And they're going to be like really sociable and they're going to be like the hostess with the mostest kind of vibe, Yeah. Yeah. And they want their reputation to be like, this person, they're the go-to. Yeah. Like they can make everything happen whenever for you. Yeah. So they are going to really be focused on and love like when people bring them praise for what they do. They are like the 2's that live on flattery. Yeah. And like, oh, you're so great at this. I can so appreciate what you're doing. Yeah. But when they're struggling, they're also going to be more deceptive and try to serve you by puffing you up. Okay. So they're going to like lean on their own pride and try to inflate your pride so that you inflate their pride.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's more of like a...
That was as you were talking about that, I was like, okay, that's like, I see maybe for like a type 2 wing 3, like that weakness of pride being maybe an area that has to be like worked on a little bit more than like a type 2 wing 1.
Yeah.
Pride
is bad.
Right.
And ones are afraid of being bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's interesting. Yeah. So you can start to see kind of how all of these different things that we've talked about start to kind of layer on top of each other.
Yeah. And it's not to say that a 2 wing 1 doesn't deal with the pride weakness.
Right.
They do for sure. But you just have to, it's more sneaky.
It's subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're serving the right way. And so then their pride kind of comes out like that.
As the rightness. Yeah.
So that's the wings.
Okay. All right. I think next thing, and actually the last thing as far as like a very kind of specific Enneagram strategy almost to kind of understanding type 2 is paths. So stress and growth paths.
Yeah.
So this is where a type 2 will go in stress and like kind of the number that they will start to reflect when they're in stressful situations or feeling stress. And then the type that they tend to go towards when they're in a growth season. So what are those for them?
Yeah. I like to call these tools. So there's tools in your toolbox that you borrow. And so you borrow the tools over this number in these areas. Now, in stress, your default tool is going to be your stress tools. And in stress, you can also then decide to reach for your less used tools of your growth tools.
Okay.
And so it's awareness is really what helps with that. But for stress, it's like a protective measure a lot of time. So for a type 2, they're going to borrow from a type 8, which is really disorienting if you know a type 2.
Yeah. Yep.
So a type 8 is they're like the challenger. They're very like leadership oriented, self-assured, plow ahead. And so it's so disorienting as a 2 because you switch from this others focused servant minded person to nobody's doing what I want them to do and I will make them.
Right.
And then it's like, I thought you just wanted to help and no, you're going to help me now. You know, this aggressive, assertive, demanding person comes out of this 2 and they are going to make the room conform to what they need. Yeah. And so anger and when a 2 is under stress, they live in like just more of a perpetual anger. Yeah. And when they're serving, they're doing it from a grumbly spot instead of from like a loving spot. Yeah. And then they get more salty that people aren't returning the favor. Yeah. Because that is part of why, a 2 is serving in their core because they want to be loved. Right. And so when that's not being returned, then they get mad. Yeah. And so then when it's stress, then they're extra mad. Yeah. Well, I have to do everything for everyone and nobody looks out for me. Right. So it's time for them to not it's time for me to take a moment to take care of myself, right? Like that's growth. Yeah. Instead, they're like, it's time for somebody to start looking out for me too. Yeah. You owe me, it's kind of what starts happening. Ooh, okay. And they have a hard time like taking their own responsibility for what they're feeling. Okay. So yes, one of the most disorienting stress paths that I think is on the Enneagram is a type 2. Yeah. That is. Because it's so confusing. That is very confusing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So growth then. Where are we headed in growth? Is a type 4. Okay. And so type 4 is they're the individualists. They're the ones that are very concerned with who they uniquely are and it being significant and creative and important. Yeah. And so what this looks like for a type 2 reaching for growth is recognizing that they have unique significance in the world apart from other people. And so they start to become more introspective. Okay. Like a type 4 is one of the more introspective numbers on the Enneagram. Yeah. They do a lot of reflecting of like, why do I feel this way? And they love a good emotional sauna, right? Just like feeling all the things and thinking about why they feel that way and then feeling about how they think. And, they like really stick into that. So a 2 reaching for growth, they're going to become more introspective.
Okay.
And they're going to reflect more on their own motivation.
Okay.
And why they're feeling what they're feeling, not just how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And they're going to also then take some time to take care of themselves. Like 4s know what they need and they're going to go and get it a lot of times because they want to keep riding their emotional wave. And so that's the thing that when a 2 is growing, they're going to latch onto that positive behavior of learning how to care for themselves.
Yeah.
Too, and to actually make space for that time to care for themselves.
Okay.
And they're going to believe that they're worth something just because of who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when a 4 is doing well, they believe that they're significant and special and worthy.
Yeah.
And so a 2 can reach for that and can borrow that tool and remind themselves that they are also significant and worthy of their own time and worthy of feeling all the feelings, not just the good ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like some of the more like negatively labeled emotions can be hard for a 2 to feel sometimes because it starts to make them feel needy. And then that picks at their fear.
Yeah.
And so when a 2 can actually feel sad, and when we feel sad, we need support, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard for a 2 to be like, I'm sad, because then you automatically need support.
Right. Right.
But so when they can actually like reach and sit in their sadness and say, I am sad.
Yeah.
I do need support.
Yeah.
That is okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm still worthy of love. That's a really huge milestone for a 2.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. So this is maybe a little bit different question than we followed up with before, but it kind of rides maybe on the shoulders of our, how do we love a 2 well as 9s? But like, I think that's something that's important that I feel like I'm learning is important for me as a 9 is that like, number one, that I'm growing, right? And that I'm progressing and learning things and trying new things and stretching my own boundaries in some ways because those boundaries may not be good ones.
Yeah. They might be protective.
Yeah. But for us as a friend of a 9 or a friend of a 2 or a coworker of a 2 or, 2 as a client or a 2 as a, acquaintance, whatever it may be, how do we, what kind of role can we play in helping a 2 grow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think similarly to how we love them, but I think specifically about growth because some of the need for them is to become more introspective and self-reflective. Yeah. Is to maybe like do that with them. Yeah. Yeah. I think a 2 is often going to try to shift the subject when you sit in conversation with them. Or they're going to talk about everything they have to do for someone else. So they're either not going to talk about themselves at all. And when they do, they're going to be like, but what about you? What about you? Or if they do talk about themselves, it's just going to be like, well, I have to go to so-and-so's school and take care of this. And then after that, I'm going to go to my volunteer hours. And then I have a board meeting. And then I'm going to go over here. And then I noticed that like the median in my neighborhood was really full of trash. So I'm going to go and pick that up. And, and like, that's what they're going to talk about all the time. Yeah. And so to be able to sit with a 2, like if you have a close relationship with them and say, but how have you been feeling? Sure. Like, have you been sleeping? When's the last time you washed your hair? Yeah. Like, not because it looks gross, but because washing hair takes time. And is an important part of self-care. Right. Right. I'd love to support you. I don't have the gift that you have for knowing exactly what you need. And that is a superpower of a 2. Yeah. They can walk into a room and say, you need a snack, you need a nap, you need someone to come clean your house. Like they just know, and they're going to start doing all those things, in order. Yeah, that's good. And the rest of us 2s, we don't have that. We don't know what you need when I just look into your eyes. Right. I have no idea. I need you to tell me. Right. And so to just say to them like, hey, how can I help you? Like I would love to have your intuition to know, but I want to hear from you what you think you need. Yeah. How can I be a good friend to you in this time? Yeah. What are you feeling? I think that would be a really good way to help them and to just say, you don't have to do anything for me today. Yeah. Like, I just want to be with you. Yeah. I don't need you to return the favor
Right.
of me having a conversation with you. Like this is no favor. This is a gift.
Right.
Is you just being here.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's good. That's great.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's your 2 deep dive.
There's your 2 deep dive.
There it is. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to talk to the guys about this because I feel like, you know, I think their knowledge is not super deep on it. And so I think that, you know, some of this could be fun in just kind of like a discovery phase with them. But then also just to see how this shows up not only in business and in what they do, because I see a lot of parallels, obviously, between like their chosen professions and a 2, like, and being a 2.
Okay.
Like, I think that is an easy connection to make as far as doing video and like wanting to help people. Like, I think that is a very easy connection to make.
Okay.
But as far as even them working together and how that manifests for each of them differently and how then what kind of dynamic does that cause for them?
Yeah.
You know, because I have guesses and I will not guess because that's not how this works. But like I have guesses about like what their wings would be. Like I think they're different wings. And so I think that is probably part of how things, you know, kind of manifest in their conversations with each other and things like that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, kind of, just what this looks like for them.
Yeah. I would be so curious how they handle when their intuition says different things about the situation too. Yeah. Because that is something to know to note is like, yes, a 2 can come in the room and know what you need, but also that's their intuition. And so sometimes they're wrong. Right. You know? Right. Or sometimes they're both right. Yeah. But what is the thing to actually address in the situation? Right. I think that could be really, I would love to hear, you know, how they work through some of that conflict because 2s are also very conflict avoidant. Sure. Until they're mad and stressed out. Sure. Yeah. So, you know, that's another reason that 9s and 2s get flipped up. Yeah. Tripped up on which one's which because of how
we all also want nothing to do with conflict.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. For our own reasons. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, that will be our next one. The next one is our interview with our type 2s. Yeah. Which will be a lot of fun.
It will be.
We'll have some resources in the show notes that some people read.
It's true.
And don't forget to leave us a rating and review because that helps other people find us. We're still trying out this whole thing.
Video.
So
hi.
You may have noticed if you are watching, we're wearing the same thing because we just recorded 2 episodes. That's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to happen probably quite a lot. So.
Batching becomes important.
Yes.
And that is one of the lessons we have definitely learned.
Yeah. So
batching is important.
Don't hold it against us. But
yeah, we change clothes on different days.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do usually.
We do have some level of self-care, like changing clothes
and laundry. Yeah, it's a good thing. But yeah, I super look forward to that. If you want to know more about John and I's business, all that is in the show notes. And if you want Enneagram coaching for me to talk at you about all these things and then you reflect back, that's what I do. Yeah. And if you want a video podcast, that's what John does. So we can talk about this on our website. John just gave a very cheeky thumbs up in the camera for and yeah, that's it. We look forward to, you never said the guys' names. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jared and Garrett.
Yeah. That is a tongue twister.
It is a little bit of one. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So. They're like almost the same name, but not really.
Yeah. So you also get to hear us try to trip over their name for a whole episode.
Thanks for being here. I'm not going to say our names today.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so next time.
And have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.